This lecture we're going to talk about feeding. Now that we understand the basic needs for nutrition, let's discuss the different types of feeding strategies. First, let's take a moment to just appreciate how much diversity there is in the animal kingdom. And if you look at this slide, this is, not even a small slice, but just a little bit of what's going on in the animal kingdom. You have mammals feeding their offspring milk. You have filter feeding animals. You have animals using tools, animals relying on a community to feed, animals feeding on dead material. You have birds that only feed on one thing, nectar, and that's it. Obviously, herbivores, filter feeding birds, which is super unique. Snakes, they have so many different strategies of feeding. Remember that the purpose of feeding is to meet the animal's nutritional needs. Feeding also needs to coordinate several body parts, organs, and tissues that are all working together. In general, animals have adapted mechanisms to help them feed on foods that provide nutrients they need and are the right size and composition for the animal's size and feeding structures. Therefore, the mechanism of feeding will coincide with the size of food the animal is best suited to ingest. We've mentioned now that some animals are going to be specialists, feeding on a narrow array of food items, while others are going to be generalists that are more opportunistic feeders and will feed on a more wide array of food items. The simplest form of feeding would be marine invertebrates and some parasitic animals. They are going to absorb nutrients right through their skin. This form of feeding does not require a digestive tract, but it does require a large surface area to volume ratio, as well as permeable skin. This is not a common mechanism in the animal kingdom. More commonly, animals are going to have digestive systems to break down their food for nutrients for their body. Animals that feed on small particles will generally be suspension or filter feeders. These animals will feed on bacteria, algae, plankton, zooplankton, or phytoplankton, animal larvae, and other small animals. They are usually aquatic and feed with structures that will filter small particles out of the water. In general, seawater has more particles in it than freshwater. Therefore, most suspension feeders are going to be marine animals. There are several structures that facilitate filter feeding or suspension feeding. Sponges use a flagella or a whip-like structure that's going to move water, and that's going to help bring suspended food particles to their cells. Similarly, animals feed with cilia. They'll have little hair-like structures that will move the water and force food into reception zones like a mouth or mouth parts. Barnacles that you see over here have cirri to filter feed from the water column, and that's what these little fringes sticking up are out of the barnacle. Tentacles, like on this anemone here, can also capture suspended food particles and bring it to its mouth parts, which are right in the center there. Some animals, like coral, will produce mucus that traps food, and then they'll ingest the mucus with the trapped food. Some fish are actually filter feeders using their gills with structures called gill rakers. And you can see that on this anchovy here. Some sharks also have specialized comb-like structures on their gills for filter feeding. These gill rakers are going to act like baleen, like you see in this baleen whale here, and they're going to use baleen to filter plankton out of the water just as these fish do. Baleen is a row of keratin plates that are going to hang down from the roof of their mouth. You can see that here. There's none on the bottom, and it's fringed on the ends. It's, again, suspended from the roof of the mouth and filter feeds food from the water. As the whale expels water out of the mouth, all the food will get trapped in this baleen, and you can actually see anchovy in the bottom, the buccal cavity or the mouth cavity of this whale here. Crustaceans use setae, which you can see here on this little mouth part here, and those are fringes of chitin that help trap and direct food into the mouth parts. And finally, some birds have modified beaks for filter feeding, that you can see that here on this flamingo. This is an example of a filter feeding bird, and they feed on small krill-like animals similar to baleen, and there's little fringes right here on their beak, and they use that similar to baleen whales using baleen. Many taxonomic groups within the kingdom Animalia are adapted to filter feed and take advantage of many types of small different particles and prey. Other animals feed on large particles or prey. Some of these animals swallow large non-motile items like mud, plants, or eggs. Others are going to scrape food off the substrate or bore a hole into substrates. Many mollusks have a rasp-like radula, which allows them to scrape food, algae off rocks and other hard substrates. Some animals seize their food. Predators may use toxins to help immobilize their prey. Many vertebrates seize their food by grasping it with their teeth or their mouth. These animals may swallow their food whole or chew their food and ingest it in smaller portions. Invertebrates are also capable of masticating or chewing their food. Cephalopods have chitinous beaks used for biting or tearing. Many arthropods have mouth parts for chewing. And obviously, vertebrates have teeth or beaks designed for cutting, tearing, and chewing. All of these animals are capable of feeding on large food particles. Whatever they are using to feed or whatever they are feeding on, again, there is so much diversity in the animal kingdom. Some animals feed only on fluids or soft tissues. These animals can either directly suck fluid or pierce their food and suck the fluids. This is more commonly found in invertebrates, but the vampire bat and nectar-feeding birds, like the hummingbirds, are examples of vertebrates that also suck their food. Spiders can liquefy the inside of their prey and suck it out. Butterflies have special proboscises, and they can use that to get the nectar out of their food, like bees. All sucking animals will have specialized mouth parts for this mode of feeding. The one thing that is consistent with all of these types of feeding is that all of these animals must ingest food, break it down into smaller components, and absorb the nutrients. Animals discussed above that feed on food are all heterotrophic. They don't have the ability to produce their own food like plants do through photosynthesis, and those are called autotrophic organisms, self-feeders. All of the nutrition must come from other organisms in heterotrophic animals, like all animals. Some animals use other organisms to help them get enough nutrition. These animals rely on organisms to help them extract nutrition from their food. This is called symbiosis, where organisms work together for the benefit of both organisms. Corals and reef animals rely on autotrophic photosynthetic algae to provide them with nutrition. This is why you find corals in clear, generally shallow water. Corals are actually living animals. They're related to jellies and sea anemones, and they use symbiotic algae to get enough nutrition to grow rapidly and form a coral reef. You can see here is one polyp of a coral. This would be one polyp here, and then a whole coral like this is many polyps. But they actually have a skin layer here, a gastrodermis, and you can see the little algae cells living in there. Without these algae, coral would never get enough nutrition to grow fast enough and take over a whole coral reef like this. When coral gets stressed, they actually expel these little algae, and that causes coral bleaching, and the corals can end up dying from that because they're not getting enough nutrition. Other animals, like this deep sea hydrothermal vent tube worm that you can see here, also rely on other animals or other organisms for nutrition through a symbiotic relationship. Tube worms that live in the deep sea on hydrothermal vents rely solely on bacteria in their gut, down here in this trophosome, to provide them with nutrition. The tube worms don't have any capabilities to feed on their own. Because it is completely dark in the deep sea, and this area here, this habitat is completely toxic, there is a lot of hydrogen sulfide that is being released from these vents, and it's hot, and there's a lot of pressure. So there's not a lot of food there, and it's really extremely harsh conditions, the harshest environment in the world. And these tube worms rely on the bacteria to convert that hydrogen sulfide chemical that's being emitted from these hydrothermal vents, and that the bacteria can convert that to sugar. This is called chemosynthesis, since they are using chemicals to synthesize sugars instead of sunlight like in photosynthesis. This symbiotic relationship works because the bacteria get free housing and the tube worms get the nutrition they need. Other animals rely on gut microbes to help them extract nutrition from their food. These are usually bacteria that can live in anoxic conditions and digest the food present in the digestive tract. The microbes' digestion releases nutrients that would otherwise not be easily available to the host animal. Some of these microbes can be highly specialized and are integral to the digestion process. We are going to talk about that in the next lecture.